Hello, and welcome to Code Pro, your source for helpful and effective programming tutorials. And today we are going to be learning about MapKit and Core Location. And this is going to be the first tutorial in a series of tutorials that will show you how to add your user location to a map, how to add annotations to a map, and how to route directions between different areas of interest. So let's go ahead and get started. Open up Xcode and create a new single view iOS application, and let's begin. So for part one of this tutorial, we're simply going to be displaying the user's location onto the map. So we want to grab the map, so we want to open the main storyboard here, and we want to go and navigate to our view controller, or the only view controller in our project. And if we go down to the object library in the corner here, if we start typing in map, we'll get back a MapKit view. So we're going to take this view and we're going to drag it onto our view controller. And let's go ahead and try and spread this out all the way so it takes up the full size of this view controller. And then we'll go ahead and add some constraints to that to pin it into the corners. So once that's positioned appropriately, go down here, and what we're going to do is add some constraints. Top, bottom, leading, and trailing. And we'll just add those 4 constraints. And we're almost good to go here. The final step we want to do is create an interface builder outlet connection from our MapKit view to our view controller. And we can open the assistant editor here, go down to the map, make sure it's selected, hold down the control key, click and drag over into view controller, and I'm just going to call mine map view. And you'll notice here that we're already getting an error, and the reason for that is we need to import the framework that MapKit belongs to. And you can see that MK is the abbreviation for MapKit. So in order to get this error to resolve, we simply need to import MapKit. And if you go ahead and build our project, you'll see that this should build successfully. And there we go. Now go ahead and run the project in the simulator. And if you see here, I've got mine open. This just shows a blank map. It's not zoomed into any particular location. Just that's what it looks like without me doing anything to it. So now let's go ahead and start working on the core location piece and actually put this in a particular place. One other important thing we need to do is set the location for the simulator. Now if you're running this on an actual iOS device, you can skip this step because it'll use your actual location, but the simulator doesn't have it set by default. So what we want to do is select the simulator and go over into the debug menu here, go down to the location dropdown, and yours will probably say none, but you can go ahead and set a custom location. I'm just going to use Apple for mine, so I have that selected. And so when we display the actual location using CoreLocation API, the location will display over on the Apple Cupertino campus. Now let's go ahead and start coding the CoreLocation pieces. CoreLocation is the location-based API that uses GPS triangulation, Wi-Fi triangulation, and a bunch of other sensors crammed into the iOS device to try to figure out the coordinates for where the device is and keep it up to date. And so what we want to do is create the core location manager that we're going to be using to query for the user's location. So to start off, let's create a new variable. We'll do a private let location manager equal to CLL location manager, and you'll see the CL abbreviated for core location is the name of the API, or the abbreviation for the API. So let's go ahead and create another function here, private func configure location services. And in this method, we're going to go ahead and configure our location manager. So let's go ahead and call that here. And we're going to set the location manager's delegate equal to ourself, or our view controller. And the important thing here is when we get callbacks from CoreLocation, the delegate is going to communicate that to us in our view controller that will subscribe to, or will act as the delegate here. So let's create an extension of our view controller. And we'll put our CoreLocation delegate methods inside of this extension. So we'll just say CL location manager delegate. And we can go ahead and implement those methods. Now let's take a look in the actual class here to see what we want. So really the most important one here is going to be did update locations. So anytime these locations change, the user's current location changes, this method is going to get triggered anywhere we subscribe to it as a delegate in our view controller. So what we want to do is implement that accordingly. Did update location. Hang on. Sometimes autocomplete completely fails. Did update locations. There we go. And let's go ahead and save that location. And there's one other method that we want to also implement from the location manager delegate. And if we go down here, you'll see there's a did change authorization method. And what basically is happening here is when we request a user's location, it's a permission that the user has to grant. And once they grant or deny the permission for us to watch their location for updates, this method will get invoked with the status of the selection that they made. So their status could be always allowed, or it could be allowed while in the app, or it could be completely denied. And it's important for us to know what they select so that we can react accordingly in case the location service has been denied by the user. So we're going to implement this in a minute, but let's go back into our configuration method and flesh this out a little bit more. So the very next thing we need to do is actually request the location. And we do so by doing this. If CLLocation manager dot authorization status equals not determined, then what are we going to do? We're going to request location. So we'll use our location manager dot request location. And we have a few different options here. We can request it for a one-time delivery. We can request for always authorization whenever the app is running, and we can request when in use authorization. So I'm going to request always authorization just because this is a really simple basic tutorial, but for your app, you may want to code accordingly depending on what your needs are, and maybe requesting always authorization is just too intrusive. Maybe when in use only is sufficient. So once I invoke this here, when we run the app, we will go ahead and get the little dialog screen for the permission request. And I'm just going to add the empty else block for right now, and we'll go ahead and implement out what to do there in just a moment. Now there's one other thing we need to check for. I went ahead and ran my simulator, and I've obviously requested the location, but you see there's no dialog prompt that came up when I requested it. So the reason for that is you're going to see in your console log, unless you've already set this, that the app has attempted to access privacy-sensitive data without a usage description. So the property list of the app needs to contain key values for both the location always and when in use description and the location when in usage description. Otherwise, you won't see your location request come through. And this is a really simple fix, but it's an easy thing to overlook, so that's why I wanted to show you that right then and there. So go over into your info.plist, and really what we want to look for here is under the information property list. If we hit the plus button and we start typing in privacy, should find some location-based stuff here. Let me see if I can expand that out. Get the drop-down list, privacy location, and let's see here, always, and that should be it. It's hard to see that when in usage description. And for my actual value that the user will see, we need your location. It's simple enough, but again, for your app, you'll probably want to clean up that message so you're communicating exactly why you need the user's location in the first place. So that's one of the keys here. That covers this one. We still need the location when in usage description. So we're going to go ahead and add that one too. So if we go back, if it'll let me click that. Come on. There we go. Privacy. Location when in usage description. So this one here. And I'm just going to use the same message. We need your location. Okay, now let's go ahead and run the simulator again, and you're going to see what that does. And what we should see now, if this is working as I expect it to, is we will get the prompt for the location right away. And see, allow MapKit tutorial 1 to access your location with the message I put there saying we need your location. And this is where the user can deny it. They can always allow it, or they can just only allow it while using the app. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to hit always allow, and now we were good to go. So we know how to request the authorization. Now we need to know how to start the services if permission has been granted. So we'll do that right now. What I'm going to quickly do is just create a variable here. Let status equals our authorization status from here, just because I'm going to reuse this and I don't feel like typing it over and over. So we're going to just pop that back here. Status is not determined. We do what we normally do, else if status equals dot authorized always, or status equals dot authorized always when in use. Then in these two instances, we're going to go ahead and start updating. So before we do that, we're going to set the accuracy for our location manager, and I'm going to explain what that means in a minute. Equals k cl location. Let's see, accuracy. Where's the best one? There we go, accuracy best. And once we set that, we'll actually start the updating process. So start updating location. And let's take a look at what that desired accuracy is. If we select it and we open the right side pane over here, we read the quick help documentation. It's the description says the accuracy of the location data. The receiver does its best to achieve the requested accuracy. However, the actual accuracy is not guaranteed. So if you command click into this variable here, we should be able to find it. Okay, right here. There's different settings for the accuracy. So I set it to the best, but you can choose best for navigation, nearest 10 meters, 100 meters, accuracy down to the kilometer and 3 kilometers, and basically, you know, this is kind of how precise you need that location to be, either more precise or less precise based on what you're trying to do. So with that set, we are all set to grab that location and render it on the map. Once location updates start flowing in, the delegate method here, did update locations, is going to be the place where we get them. So just to see it, if you put a print statement here, did get latest location, you will see that this will get called over and over and over once the locations are flowing. And you can also see, if you print out here, the status changed. If the user were to grant your location services at first, but then choose to deny them later on from the settings, you would get notified here of that change. So what we need to do next is actually capture the user location and save it. So I'm going to go ahead and create a variable up here, var current location, and it's going to be a CL coordinate location coordinate 2D. And mine's going to be optional because we might not get it right away. And then what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to try to assign that to the one variable we just made. Guard let latest location equals locations dot first, else we're just going to return back because we've got nothing. And at this point, we'll just go ahead and assign the coordinate there. So I'm going to say current location equals latest location dot coordinate, because I'm just interested in the latitude and the longitude. But if you look at a CL location, it has other properties that you can probably use for more information, but such as altitude, horizontal accuracy, vertical accuracy, etc. But I just want to know where to put it on the map, so that's why I'm binding to the actual coordinate. In fact, let me just rename that so it's a little bit clearer. Current coordinate. And we'll change that here. So we have everything we need now to display the location on the map. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. One other tweak we need to make here is turning on the setting to show the user's location on the map when authorization has been granted. So that's really easy. If we go to the else if block back up here, we can just go map view.show user location equal true. If the user had denied authorization, even if we set this to true, that blue dot would not show, but once authorization has been granted, the location blue dot will be visible. So the next thing we want to do here is create a new function, and this is the last little bit, private func zoom to latest location, and we'll implement that in a moment, but we're going to call that from here when we get the location update. And I'm just going to check, if we have never assigned that coordinate before, so if current coordinate is equal to nil. In this instance, we're just going to do an initial zoom into the location, so we'll call zoom to latest location right here. One tweak I'm going to make really fast is I'm going to add in the coordinate here. So just zoom to latest location with coordinate. And we'll just pass that in here. So what we'll do is call this one more time, zoom to latest location with latest location dot coordinate, and that'll only run one time because we're going to keep track of it after that. So for the zoom, let's go ahead and do that real fast. For zooming the map in, we need to create a MK coordinate region. So what we'll do is we'll do a let region equals MK coordinate region make with distance. And we're going to provide in the coordinate that we have. And then you'll see there's a latitudinal meters and a longitudinal meters. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 10,000 or 10 kilometers for the both latitude and longitudinal meters. And that will kind of show the zoom, not too much, but not too far back either. And you can configure these values to zoom the map in more or less based on these values in the numbers. And the last thing we need to do is set the region, the zoom region on the map. So map view dot set region to the, and I'm going to rename this to zoom region so it's a little bit more clear. To zoom region, animated true. And one other final cleanup piece I want to make here is for when the authorization status changes. Because the first time you request it, we need to respond to it here to zoom into the map. So really quickly to clean that up, I'm going to create one more function, private func, let's just call it begin location updates, and we'll just pass in a location manager. And what we'll do here is just take this code from here, and we're going to just drop it right down into this function because we're going to call it from two places. So what we'll do here is just begin location updates with our location manager right there. And once we do the same logic check down here, they've requested an authorization status change. We're going to intercept that response down below and implement it accordingly to get the same thing. So if both of these, any of these situations occur, we're just going to call begin location updates, and we'll just pass in the local manager that the delegate gives us back here. So that'll work the same way. And let's go ahead and test this out real fast. So I've just started my simulator fresh, and I've just opened the app for the first time. Requested location, I'm getting the prompt. I'm going to hit always allow, and you'll see that we're zooming into the location right after we got the authorization change. Because I set the location to be Apple, that's where I'm currently set to. So I'm in and around the Cupertino area, and that blue dot represents the user's location. And one other quick caveat here, if you get into a situation where you are able to get the permissions set once in the simulator for the location, but you couldn't get it again, and you deleted the app, one thing you can do is go to the, where is it, the hardware op menu here, and if you go to erase all content and settings, it'll wipe the simulator completely clean. However, don't do this on a real iOS device or you could completely factory reset your phone. But for the simulators, it's fine. Normally what you would want to do is just completely delete the app off the simulator or on the real device to reset the location permissions to start from scratch to test the flow again. But if that doesn't work for you, just go to Hardware, erase all content and settings in the simulator only. And that wraps up our first tutorial on CoreLocation and MapKit. If you found this tutorial helpful, go ahead and smash that like button, and make sure you subscribe to Code Pro, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you can be updated for all the latest videos, because this is the first part of the MapKit tutorial series. There will be subsequent tutorials showing how to add annotations to the map, as well as routing directions from one location to the other. So stay tuned for those videos, and as always, the code will be available on GitHub. That link is down below in the description. Make sure for future tutorials, you can use this tutorial as the starting point to go into tutorials 2, so on and so forth. And thank you so much for stopping by.